A little while ago, I was watching an episode of GameSack on YouTube, and they were talking about 2.5D platformers. You know the ones, where it's a 2D game, typically a platformer, which I guess would make it 2.5D, but normally it takes place within a 3D environment. So yeah, 2.5D. It's not something that you see a lot of anymore, but one game Joe talked about was a game called Puppeteer. It immediately caught my eye due to its visible resemblance to Little Big Planet, but what caught it even more was its presentation style. And that was the biggest selling point of Puppeteer to me. Puppeteer is a side-scrolling platformer with a lot of environmental puzzles and a minimal bit of action. You play as a boy named Kutaro, who originally lived on Earth but was abducted and taken to the moon, and then converted into a wooden puppet. As such, the whole game takes place as if you're watching a show. You'll get that inkling right from the start of the game, since the first thing you see on the title screen is a red curtain with an announcer inviting you in. It's a fantastic start, and sets the whole tone of the game. If you don't press start here, the narrator will make a few humorous comments, like not to run with scissors, and to go away if you're not a fan of dark areas.
For those of you frightened of the dark, I recommend that you sit out today's performance. Unfortunately, we cannot offer refunds, only badges of shame.
Once you choose to start, the narrator will begin the story, explaining the whole plot and introduction. An audience will audibly react to many of the scenes within the game. And that's not just during cutscenes either. As you play the game, many times when a specific event occurs, the audience will laugh, clap, and cheer, further playing along the role of presenting the game as a theatrical piece. It doesn't hurt that bits of scenery pop in every time you reach the end of the area. Also, on segments of each stage that scroll, you can oftentimes find gears that will rotate the props around. It's all done very convincingly, and there will be times while playing that you forget you're actually playing a game, and instead are engrossed in the presentation. But enough of that, let me talk about the gameplay. Before that, I guess I need to preface it with the story, which I started with, but then moved on to the visual pleasantries of the game. Again, you play as Kutaro, who is tasked by a witch named Ezra Potts to go to the Moonbear King's castle. The Moonbear King has his eyes on a plot to absorb a ton of power from the souls of all the children of Earth, so that he can rule the moon in a complete dictatorship. Ezra has her own plot for power, and Kutaro has to decide which side to be on. But before he bothers with that, he has to go after the Moonbear King's generals and take the shards of moonstone that they each have. And before even that, Kutaro needs a weapon. So he sneaks into the castle and finds a magical pair of scissors called the Calibris. The Calibris acts as a sword when attacking the very few types of enemies you'll find, but for the most part, you'll be using it to literally cut up the scenery. So here's how the game goes. Kutaro will spawn in an area, and it'll be your job to control him around the level, doing platforming and jumping around. You'll occasionally run into enemies called grubs, which are just other kidnapped kids that have the sole objective to stop you in their journey. A few cuts, and they'll fall. And then you can cut the little balloon that pops out of them to free their soul back to Earth. But there will be times where you'll encounter an impossible jump or a climb that is a bit out of jumping range. From here, you need to use Calibris' skills. For the most part, anything that's not tied down can be cut, and by ripping your way through the scenery, Kutaro will be able to essentially glide through the air, making these previously impossible jumps now possible. A bit into the game and Calibris will be powered up a bit, allowing you to pause in between cuts to be able to get more distance. You'll need to get good at this skill, because this will allow you to bridge larger gaps between the scenery objects. There are also 4 skills that Kutaro will learn in his journey that will help complement Calibris' abilities. One allows you to throw a bomb, another throws out a chain that acts like the old hook shot, another allows you to become a wrestler and body slam from the air, but also allow you to push and pull specific objects, and the last allows you to bring up a glimmering shield that can absorb a few hits and reflect projectiles. Most of these abilities are meant for the various puzzles that you encounter, but there will be times, mostly during boss battles, where you'll have to use these skills to take down the enemy. Each of them is mapped to their own button, so performing them can't be easier. In addition, you're not alone in your journey. In the first chapter, you have a companion moon cat named Yin Yang that will float around. After that, you have a sun fairy named Picarina. Both of these characters are controlled using the right analog stick to move them around the screen, and R2 to interact with any applicable objects. These objects might be odd parts of the scenery, other characters, or, the highest priority, head cauldrons. Most objects interacted with just drop moon sparkles, which are collected for lives. But why are the cauldrons so important? Well, it's because the collectible heads act like your life bar. So here's how it works. In the beginning of the game, Kotaro's head is pulled off, and he's running around decapitated. He is then given a replacement head by Yin Yang. From here on out, you can collect up to 3 heads that you can easily swap between by using left and right on the directional pad. If you get hit, the head you're wearing will pop off and you have a few seconds to run it down and reclaim it. If you can't, you'll lose it and another head will take its place. Run out of heads and you're down to life. If you manage to fall down a pit, you'll simply lose the head you're wearing and respawn at the last checkpoint. It's a really good system and it works well. But in reality, you probably won't worry too much. Because, well, the game is pretty damn easy. And that's because lives accumulate faster than you can waste them. Even when I finished the game, I had close to 70 lives, and I even probably lost a fair share of them. So why is it so easy to earn new lives? Well, it's because moon sparkles are all over the place. Every 100 that you grab will grant you an extra life. And these are easy to obtain, with them respawning after losing a life. So it's oftentimes very easy to get that lost life back. And when you lose a head, or grab a new one, you'll earn an extra 5. And there's plenty of hidden areas granting even more moon sparkles by using specific heads at very precise parts of each stage. By doing this, you might get a hidden area, a new unlocked head, or even possibly a bonus game that is laden with the moon sparkles. The game itself is fairly simple as well, with the only real enemies being environmental hazards, since the grubs themselves don't carry much of a threat. Even the bosses aren't so bad, with plenty of chances to reclaim lost heads or even grab new ones after doing damage. The only one I really struggled with a little bit was the pumpkin, since you had to run hard and dodge over spikes and other obstacles. There is an optional co-op mode available if you have a friend. From what I can gather, one person controls Kotaro, while the other the companion, whether it be Yin Yang or Picarina. Unfortunately though, I can't comment on it at this time, but hopefully I can get someone to play with and maybe do a talkthrough in the future. This could be a fun one to do. And that's Puppeteer. It's a very fun, enjoyable game that you can easily complete in a weekend if you decided to. It's a great side scroller that really does have a unique presentation and engaging story. I understand it may not appeal to everyone since it's a bit on the easier side and there's no real adult themes, so if you want blood and gore, this is definitely not your game. But me? I still recommend it. Final score? 9 out of 10. This is Reaper. As always, happy fragging.